Merry Christmas.
A huge crater scars the Scottish landscape one day after the mysterious crash of Pan American Flight 103. In this season of peace on Earth, growing suspicion of sabotage in the sky. U.S. officials now concede there was a bomb threat, but they kept it from the flying public. Relatives of the dead want to know why.
That makes me better now. God! What right do they have of taking an airplane up when they know there's a possible terrorist attack?
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. The investigation into the Christmas-time crash of a Pan American Airways jumbo jetliner in Scotland intensified today. The focus now on possible terrorism. Mounting evidence points to some kind of explosion on board that 747. Reagan-Bush administration officials acknowledged today that an anonymous caller had threatened to blow up a Pan Am plane sometime this month. The officials scrambled to try to explain and defend their decision to keep that threat from the public. A spokeswoman at the FAA asked, and I quote, "Why scare the public to death?" Word of this keep them in the dark policy outraged grieving families of the crash victims. The toll, now 259 killed aboard the plane, at least 22 more persons killed on the ground. Major discovery today, the jumbo jet's flight recorders. They could provide clues to what happened in the final moments of Flight 103. CBS News correspondent Anthony Mason is following the investigation in Lockerbie, Scotland.
It's the sweeping trail of debris scattered over the Scottish countryside that's convinced many experts that Flight 103 was blown apart. In daylight today, investigators followed an eerie path of destruction. Seat cushions and oxygen masks in the streets, a briefcase, and bodies strewn for miles.
All of those things combined certainly lead one to believe that there could very well have been an explosion.
Flight 103 had just crossed the Scottish border at 31,000 feet last night. When it began its turn west towards New York, it suddenly went off the radar screen. Within seconds, the cockpit fell out of the sky some 3 miles south of Lockerbie. A huge section of the aircraft hit the main highway in town, and its debris set dozens of homes on fire. Cabin doors landed miles away in Langham, and clothing was found near Westerkirk. Today, a helicopter search crew discovered perhaps the most valuable piece of evidence, the plane's in-flight recording equipment. Investigators hope the black box will reveal what happened here last night. Before it crashed in the Scottish hills, Pan Am Flight 103 was on course, on schedule, and gave no signal of distress.
I would have thought the circumstances, the way in which witnesses say the aircraft appears to have exploded in midair, and the warning that apparently was given do point to a terrorist attack.
Today, an anonymous caller to the Associated Press in London claimed the Pan Am jet was blown up in retaliation for the United States downing of an Iranian Airbus in Gulf waters in July. But the Iranian government quickly denied any involvement. Search parties were sent out over the hills this morning to look for bodies and debris.
When we get over the other side, keep your eyes up in the trees and things.
While American and British investigation teams spent much of their time studying the cockpit, the largest surviving section of the plane.
Well, really anything and everything is what we're looking for, evidence we'll be piecing together.
But increasingly on the Scottish hillside, what investigators are looking for is any sign of a smoking gun. An undetected device that may have blown Flight 103 out of the Scottish sky. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Lockerbie, Scotland.
Amid the growing talk of sabotage as the possible cause of the Pan Am 103 disaster, this much is known. Fact. The U.S. State Department was forced to admit today it knew and warned its own embassies 2.5 weeks ago of a bomb threat against Pan Am jetliners bound from Frankfurt to New York. Fact. Pan Am was warned, sort of, by the Federal Aviation Administration. Fact. No one warned the U.S. Army or the flying public. CBS News Defense Department correspondent David Martin and State Department correspondent Wyatt Andrews have been investigating the threat that came in and the very limited warning that went out.
The anonymous phone call to the U.S. Embassy in Helsinki, Finland came just 2.5 weeks ago. It was very specific and perhaps very prophetic.
On December 5, 1988,
an unidentified individual telephoned the U.S. Embassy in Helsinki and stated that sometime within the next 2 weeks there would be a bombing attempt against a Pan American aircraft flying from Frankfurt to the U.S.
According to this bulletin sent out by the Federal Aviation Administration and obtained by CBS affiliate WAGA in Atlanta, the caller spoke with a Middle East accent and identified two individuals, Yassan Garadat and Abdullah, as being part of the plot. The caller claimed they had ties to the notorious Abu Nidal organization and that the explosive device would be carried by an unwitting Finnish woman. The FAA said, quote, "The reliability of the information cannot be assessed at this point," but it directed that all U.S. airlines serving Europe and all U.S. embassies in Europe be warned. Finnish police did not take the threat as seriously.
The Finnish police told us right at the outset, when they looked into it, that they felt that the caller was probably committing a hoax. They did not put much credibility in it.
Despite the striking similarity between the anonymous phone call and what happened to Pan Am Flight 103, U.S. officials caution there is as yet no hard evidence a bomb went off aboard the plane.
We don't know at this point whether this is a terrorist incident. There are pretty clear indications now coming in that the weather in the area, the winds were very high where the plane was flying.
The anonymous caller mentioned Abu Nidal. Although Abu Nidal is responsible for some of the worst terrorist attacks on record, airplane bombings have not been one of his tactics. But there is always a first time. The anonymous caller said the bomb would be carried by a Finnish woman. One of Abu Nidal's top lieutenants, who engineered last summer's attack against a Greek ferry, is married to a Finnish woman. Authorities are now checking whether she or any other woman with a Finnish name boarded Pan Am Flight 103 in Frankfurt. Abu Nidal is not the only suspect, but U.S. officials do not give much credence to the after-the-fact claim by the pro-Iranian group Guardians of the Islamic Revolution that it was revenge for the USS Vincenza's downing of Iran Air.
There is simply no way that we can verify this claim.
The first order of business is to establish the cause of the crash. President Reagan has dispatched teams from the FBI, FAA, and National Transportation Safety Board to aid British authorities in the investigation. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Hoax or no hoax, the U.S. government took the Helsinki threat seriously. The State Department admits it sent warnings to the FAA and to every U.S. embassy in Europe, but it did not warn U.S. servicemen and decided to say nothing in public.
Our focus has been on alerting those who are responsible for security arrangements. We want to alert those people who can do something about the threat.
The public was not told about this threat, officials say, because threats like it happen all the time. 106 threats since September, almost one a day. Going public with every threat taken seriously would shut down the airlines.
There are so many of them that if you paid attention to all of them and planned your travel accordingly, you would never go anywhere.
But if anything, this threat against Pan Am was taken more seriously than most. The Frankfurt airport said it beefed up security when it got the warning. And U.S. Embassy officials in Moscow put up this warning notice, bomb threat it said, because so many Americans in Moscow fly Pan Am to Frankfurt.
We have notified our embassy community here in Moscow. This is a route that we frequently travel from Moscow, and we notified our people routinely.
The troubling question now is, how is the public protected by a warning system designed to help embassies and airlines? Pan Am today said it, too, beefed up security at Frankfurt in response to the Helsinki threat. But there was no public notice of that before and no acknowledgement of the threat last night.
Had Pan Am received any kind of threats in the past weeks or months?
No. Still, it's likely Pan Am was only following an unwritten rule outlined today by the president-elect, that the public should be warned of a terrorist threat only if the threat is precise.
If you had hard evidence that a specific flight was going to be threatened or that the threat could not be contained, clearly you would want to serve the public good by notifying people.
The State Department worked hard today to avoid the image that it's been busy protecting diplomats at the expense of the American public. Officials here are insistent that if a public warning were issued for every threat received, any nut with a telephone could cause chaos. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the State Department.
Emphasizing once again, no one knows what caused the plane to crash. It may or may not have been sabotage. Ordinarily, this is a joyous time on a college campus, holiday coming up, a time of winter dreams. But as many as 38 Syracuse University students who were studying abroad died in the Pan Am crash. And today, correspondent Richard Roth reports Syracuse is a campus dressed in mourning.
Syracuse University Chancellor Melvin Eggers says students who are scheduled to take exams today and tomorrow will not be required to take the tests. Eggers said at a press conference...
A relaxation of the rules today for final exams was the smallest of signs that this giant campus had been touched by tragedy. Most of Syracuse University's 16,000 students were already gone for the holidays.
We have not been able to identify them.
Those left behind became a small community with a common bond of sorrow and disbelief.
It's just something that you just keep turning over and over in your head, and it's really hard to believe.
I've seen the list.
Yeah.
Her name
The name was on there?
I saw the list.
As most of you know, there has been a tragic plane crash.
A basketball game last night wasn't canceled, it was just delayed for a moment of silence. A decision that brought some criticism. It was a decision that just hadn't been carefully made, said Chancellor Melvin Eggers today, explaining shock was the reason. And the shock got worse with news the air crash may have been the result of sabotage.
Thought we were down in the depths when I heard of the tragedy in the first place. But to consider it as a deliberate act is almost incomprehensible to me. I find that just so appalling.
Much of the day here was spent trying to accept a tragedy that simply could not be understood.
They were among our best. They were all special. They were unique.
Universities are sanctuaries of reason and ideas. At this one, the chancellor said, "Our sense of grief today is profound, but so is the understanding we must persevere." Richard Roth, CBS News, Syracuse, New York.
And still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent Bruce Morton on mourning across America for Pan Am Flight 103, and Doug Tennell in Lockerbie, the Scottish town where it rained fire.
Not today.
Miss! Check, please.
My first day on the job.
Just as there are headaches and headaches, there's aspirin and there's Anacin. Clinical tests show Anacin relieves headache pain better. The Anacin aspirin formula provides a more effective level of pain relief than regular aspirin. Better relief.
Feeling better?
Not just better, better.
Anacin, not just better, better.
If you love lots of shrimp, Red Lobster is going to make you very happy. Introducing the Shrimp Spectacular Platter, just $7.95. 4 ways to love shrimp, all on one plate. Crispy fried, spicy Cajun popcorn, zesty lemon pepper, and announcing our delicious new grilled shrimp. That's our Shrimp Spectacular Platter, just $7.95. Kid shrimp, $1.95. It's spectacular, now at Red Lobster. And for the holidays, call for Party Platters to go, ready in just 1 hour.
It hurts. Sinus pressure and headache. It really, really hurts. A painkiller alone can't stop it. A nasal decongestant alone can't stop it. Sinutab can stop it. Sinutab combines the painkiller in Tylenol with the decongestant in Sudafed to give you more than either one alone. Sinutab is the #1 sinus medicine for a good reason. It stops the pain. It stops the pain. Sinutab stops the pain.
There is no official conclusive word yet on why Flight 103 crashed. It is possible we may never know exactly what went so terribly wrong, and there are a lot of possibilities. Structural problems with the aircraft, weather, but many experts on air disasters are beginning to work toward the conclusion that a bomb may indeed have been to blame. And CBS News correspondent Richard Schlesinger is here now to tell us why. Richard?
Well, Dan, as you've said, it's still too early to know for sure what caused the crash, but today aviation experts are looking at what we do know happened yesterday, and some of them are starting to say it all looks frighteningly familiar. The International Air Transport Association says there are chilling similarities between yesterday's crash and the 1985 crash of an Air India 747. Investigators blamed that crash off the Irish coast on a bomb. In both cases, there was no indication of trouble before the planes went down. Both planes dropped off radar screens while at their cruising altitudes, considered the safest part of any flight. And in both cases, radio contact with the planes was lost suddenly. The Air Transport Association compared the Pan Am and Air India crashes to a third disaster, the 1985 crash of a Japan Airlines 747, which investigators blamed on a cracked pressure bulkhead. The pilot of that plane was able to continue flying it for 20 minutes as he searched in vain for an emergency landing strip. Since the pilot of Pan Am 103 was unable to control his plane, one Air Transport Association official said what happened on board that aircraft had to be something quite spectacular. Once the team of investigators can examine the wreckage of Flight 103, it should be able to determine if a bomb brought the plane down.
There would be holes in it from flying debris from material in the neighborhood of the bomb.
Some aviation experts say the plane could have come apart because of a structural failure, but as in the Japan Airlines accident, that probably would have given the pilot time to try something or tell somebody.
It may be pretty dramatic on the inside in terms of the loss of pressure, but it's generally not a fatal thing.
And the 747 has shown itself to be a pretty rugged airplane that can withstand a lot of punishment. That may argue in favor of the bomb theory, but airplanes are complex machines, and Dan, a lot of things could have gone wrong in the final moments of Flight 103.
They could have. Thanks, Richard. The village where Flight 103 crashed was still in shock today. The people who lived there surrounded, literally consumed by death and destruction. Doug Tennell reports on the physical and emotional wounds in Lockerbie, Scotland, a town that will never be the same.
When the 300 tons of jumbo jet that was Pan Am 103 hurtled into this Scottish border town, it smashed the homes of people here and the spirit of an entire community. The destruction began with a deluge of burning jet fuel and shards of aluminum, wheels, wings, and fuselage. It spread across nearly 40 square miles of picturesque Scottish lowlands. After the wreckage stopped falling, there was the realization that for an instant, the sky rained people too.
How can any of us conceptualize what has happened when 250-odd people, die in such a tragedy?
This is a rural town where everyone knows everyone else, and last night was all they could talk about.
It's a very quiet, close-knit community, and I think it's this disaster certainly is something that will bring out this sense of community very markedly.
I mean, everybody just help everybody else.
Today they stared in wonder at what their village had become when yesterday they only thought of Christmas.
Well, there were dances and things planned, over the Christmas period, and these things will just not take part, and they just won't happen now.
The most important Christmas list for Lockerbie this year is the one at Town Hall, naming local residents who survived. Slowly, they are putting their town back together. At first glance, it could be almost any busy pre-Christmas evening on this main street, but that's only if you don't look to the hills overlooking Lockerbie tonight, where the search effort is still underway. Helicopter by helicopter, they are diligently ferrying the bodies in from the fields around Lockerbie, and yet there may be as many as 100 still out there. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Lockerbie, Scotland.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent freshens up dentures and cleans away stains so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
Hemorrhoids. They hurt, burn, and swell. Over the years, more doctors have recommended Anusol than Preparation H to relieve the hurting. Anusol is the word to remember for relief.
Hey. We won $10 million from Publishers Clearinghouse.
And we only had one chance to win.
Now, Publishers Clearinghouse gives you 5 chances to win big money fast. We're announcing more winning numbers, more prizes than ever before right on TV. On January 31st, you could win $10 million. But to win fast, you've got to enter fast. So watch your mail for the biggest Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes ever and enter today.
We won $10 million.
If you hurry, you can too.
Why do you take aspirin more than once a week?
Because after one day of tennis, I can have 3 days of aches and pains. But when you take aspirin that often, you wonder about aspirin stomach upset.
Well, today, there's a better aspirin product for you.
Try buffered Bufferin. Better than plain aspirin because it's 100% aspirin plus 3 buffers to help protect against stomach upset aspirin can cause.
You know, it really is better.
Try buffered Bufferin if you take aspirin more than once a week.
After hesitating and delaying, President-elect Bush went ahead and named Dr. Louis Sullivan today to be Health and Human Services Secretary. He did so over complaints by some anti-abortion groups that Bush had broken faith with them because Dr. Sullivan, in their opinion, isn't absolutely opposed to abortion. CBS News National Affairs correspondent Leslie Stahl reports there were others named to high posts in the incoming Bush administration too today, and new complaints that the Bush cabinet is shaping up as mostly a wealthy, establishment, middle-aged white man's club at the top.
Mr. Bush named the first black to his cabinet, and as his staff was eager to point out, the second Hispanic and a Polish American. For Veterans Affairs, a surprise, former Congressman Edward Derwinski of Illinois. Interior Secretary, another surprise, another Congressman, Manuel Lujan of New Mexico. Transportation, Chicago transit official Samuel Skinner. Environmental Protection Agency, William Riley of the Conservation Foundation. And for Health and Human Services, Dr. Louis Sullivan, opposed by anti-abortion groups after he was quoted as saying he supports a woman's right to an abortion.
I hope you read my lips. I am opposed to abortion, except in the case of rape, incest, or a threat to the life of the mother.
Mr. Bush insisted they see eye to eye.
I'm the one that's going to err on the side of human life. I'm the one that's going to, if you want to make it so simplistic, be pro-life instead of pro-choice.
Now critics say Mr. Bush is creating a two-tiered cabinet with white male friends in the top posts, minorities in the others.
Most of the subject matter is too important to be handled by a cabinet-level version of the quote system.
I reject that notion. Serving as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the largest government entity, one of the largest in the world, larger than most foreign countries, is a tremendous responsibility.
2 posts to go, labor and energy. So far, there are no women in the Bush cabinet. Transition sources say they're still talking with Elizabeth Dole. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, Washington.
The South African-ruled territory of Namibia is officially on its way to independence. The agreement, mediated by the United States, was signed at the United Nations today by diplomats from South Africa, Cuba, and Angola. A separate accord calls for the phased withdrawal of Cuban troops from Angola.
I don't know.
What's missing in these new special request soups from Campbell's?
I don't know.
Want to guess?
I don't know.
About 1/3 of the salt.
That's what Campbell's soups are. Good.
This is it. The big night is almost here when I'll announce 7 winning numbers for 7 big prizes up to $10 million. January 27th is Get Rich Night at American Family, and you get 7 chances to win. You may be our next multimillionaire.
Just like us.
$10 million, all for you. Enter fast, win fast in America's only sweepstakes with my picture. Last chance. Enter now.
Life's finer pleasures. Happily, some more affordable. Like Grey Poupon Dijon mustard. Created from an original Dijon recipe so fine it even has white wine to enhance fillets, enliven sauces, and dress up salad dressings. So enjoy one of life's finer pleasures.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?
But of course, Grey Poupon, one of life's finer pleasures.
I woke up with a sinus cold.
Pain, congestion, pressure.
I took new maximum strength Dristan. I'm here.
New maximum strength Dristan to unclog congestion, relieve pressure and pain.
And I'm not drowsy.
New maximum strength Dristan for tough sinus colds.
The dead are not the only casualties in a catastrophe like the crash in Scotland. It is the living, the family and friends who must cope with pain and grief and sometimes with anger. Bruce Morton has the survivor's story.
It is Christmas, the season of joy, the celebration of a birth. In many homes, a time to mourn.
I think it's one of the awfulest things that could ever happen. Awful.
Barbara Wilson's daughter was a junior at Syracuse. She died in the crash. John Mulroy's family had been preparing a Christmas reunion, but there will be 6 empty chairs. Mulroy and 5 other family members died.
My sister Joan had the table set for them, expecting them, you know. And that's it.
Arba Thomas's parents sent him to school in Germany. It would be safer, they thought, than home in Detroit, but Arba Thomas died.
His Christmas present was to come home. He wanted to be home for Christmas.
At Seton Hill College, it was a Christmas song, but sung at a memorial mass. Wendy Polinsky mourned her friend Beth Johnson.
She was just so nice. She didn't want to hurt anyone.
But other mourners asked, if there were threats of a bomb, why weren't we told?
It makes me better now. God! What right do they have? I'm taking an airplane up and they know there's a possible terrorist attack. I was okay until that. I heard that.
Joy and grief this Christmas time, unevenly, arbitrarily divided.
He missed the flight he was supposed to take. We bought him tickets a couple months ago, and he missed the flight.
Lieutenant George Williams caught the Pan Am flight and died.
I got him home. I got him home and I'm safe, and I wasn't one of the unlucky ones.
Jennifer Lee Aitken had missed the Pan Am flight, caught a later one, and lived. A time for joy, a time in many homes for weeping, a time to remember. George Williams's father had the best idea for how to do that.
Each Christmas, if you find somebody that needs help badly, do something for them at Christmas and make that something you do for Jordy. And that way, he'll be happy where he is.
In that way, Jordy Williams can live in the memories of those who love him. And so, at Christmas time, can all the rest. Bruce Morton, CBS News.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
What's that fragrance you're wearing?
Make a statement without saying a word.
Tots champagne. Tonight.
I can't get out of bed.
Ever notice how even the smallest cold turns everything into a big effort?
What a drag!
It's time to get the big relief of Dimetap. In 12-hour extend tabs, Dimetap is recommended millions of times by doctors and pharmacists.
So you have a cold? I've got just the thing.
Dimetap. It gets things back to normal.
This is CBS.